Can we have one game without a serious injury? I mean, come on. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, we are breaking down the 49ers 37-15 win over the Carolina Panthers. This could be one of those Pyrrhic victories where it was a very nice win for the 49ers and should really help us as the season goes on, but at what cost? There's a lot to talk about here, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. First thing that I want to talk about, number one, is a huge thank you to everyone who stopped by the stream today. It was incredibly successful. We had a really great turnout, a lot of fun interactions with the people in chat. The game was really exciting, a lot of big plays. So again, thank you so much for really making it a successful stream, and do check back for future streams coming up, every single 49er game plus some NFL games. Now, next, what I want to talk about before I really break down the game is let's go over some of the injuries, and unfortunately, they are significant. So right now, Emmanuel Moseley is feared to have torn his ACL. The second I saw the play happen, I pretty much called it. You could see the ligament right there in his knee. Didn't look good. Prayers to Emmanuel Moseley, and it's just really a bummer because he was having his best season as a professional. Not only in this game, pick six, which was huge, but just in general, he's been playing really, really well, and there's really no silver lining to this. The only sliver of a silver lining that I can pick out of this is that we may be able to bring him back on a cheaper deal next year, but honestly, that's not worth it to me. It's just such a shame to lose him for the year. I feel really, really bad, and overall, prayers to him and his recovery, and I really do hope, number one, he gets the money that he deserves, and he deserves good money, and number two, that he stays with the 49ers moving forward. Now, that wasn't the only injury. Nick Bosa had a tightness in his groin, so hopefully that won't keep him out for too long. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he's not there for the Atlanta game, but we'll talk about that when we preview that game later in the week. Also, Jimmy Ward, his first game of the season, breaks his hand within a couple of plays. It'll be interesting to see if maybe he's able to play, and he plays with one of those like clubs. They have to, wrap it up on his hand. We'll see about that. Last but not least, Robbie Gould gets hurt, and we're going to talk about a little bit later in the breakdown. But of course, it wouldn't be a 49er game without some significant injuries. Now let's move into the breakdown. We're going to go position by position. Of course, we're going to start off with the quarterback position, and overall, I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was very, very solid this game. He did have a couple of throws that really could have been intercepted, but honestly, looking around the NFL these days, every single quarterback is seemingly having those throws. That's not to excuse the throws necessarily, but I thought he had a really solid game. 18 for 30, over 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So this is actually the second game in a row that Jimmy Garoppolo has not turned the ball over, and he needs to keep this up. When he doesn't turn the ball over, the 49ers win games. It's as simple as that. Now, one thing which I really did like seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo in this game, number one, taking the deep shot to Danny Gray. Look, it was incomplete, maybe could have been intercepted, but at least it forces the defense to have to respect that aspect. Number two, what I really liked about Jimmy Garoppolo is that he threw passes where it was going to be contested catches, but you have to trust with the one-on-one matchups, trust the receiver, because even if they don't catch it, you might get a pass interference call. We saw it at a throw to Tevin Coleman, and that was a fantastic catch by Tevin to come down with it on the sideline. And then also on the first drive of the game, a really nice third down throw to George Kittle. And that's another big thing that I want to talk about. The 49ers were excellent on third down, not even just third and short, but third and long. There was one drive, 3rd and 8 we convert, another 3rd and 8 we convert, 3rd and 10 we convert. So those are really big time plays. Of course, it extends the drives, and it ultimately led to a lot of points. So overall, really, really good job by Jimmy Garoppolo. Now moving on to the running backs, and just as good, if not better, Jeff Wilson Jr., 17 rushes, 120 yards, and a well-deserved touchdown. Also had a nice catch. Jeff Wilson Jr. really, really filling in nicely, and he is just so powerful. And he was able to weave his way, a little bit shifty, if you will, but really playing nicely these last couple of games. Tevin Coleman got a decent amount of action today, did have a touchdown run. He also had a touchdown reception, so 2 touchdowns for Tevin. We know he likes playing against the Panthers. 49ers. We saw it in 2019. We saw it today. Moving on to the wide receivers, Deebo Samuel, an okay game. The touchdown grab, really, really nice. However, he had a really bad drop, wide open. Deebo could have done Deebo things if he caught it after the catch, but it had a bit of a drop. So overall, not a great game from Deebo, considering the expectations that we have for a guy of his caliber. Brandon Ayuk, a solid game. He did lead the team in receiving yards, so you have to like that. He also had a play that he really could have come up with it. Hands, I don't know, he did something weird where he kind of moved one of his hands away at the last second. The ball went right between his hands. I don't know, just a weird play. But overall, solid game from Ayuk. I do think we need to get him involved more. And speaking of getting guys more involved, Jawan Jennings, big time game for him. Had that really nice play where he caught the ball over the middle, breaks a tackle, and then gets about 25-30 yards after the catch, which was fantastic. He also had a really big conversion on 3rd down and 10 on the sideline. He made CJ Henderson miss. Beautiful play, kept the drive going. Great game from Jawan Jennings. Tight ends, Kittle. There was a really nice 3rd down catch early in the game. Seemed to be a little bit more involved. He did lead he was number 2 in targets for the receivers, but he had that bad fumble early in the game, which really swung momentum away from the 49ers. Luckily, it didn't come back to bite us, though. Last but not least, when we're talking about the offense, let's talk about the offensive line. Jalen Moore at left tackle. That was a big concern of mine going up against a guy like Brian Burns for the Carolina Panthers. He did give up a sack, but overall, at the end of the day, I thought he played pretty darn well, all things considered. It seemed like we did swap in Brunskill in and out a little bit of the lineup there at left guard as well. But ultimately, I thought Jalen Moore held his own. If we saw the stat line for Brian Burns before the game, I would have taken it. And Jimmy Garoppolo only sacked twice. The interior of the line, really solid. Blocking opened up holes to allow Tevin Coleman, more specifically Jeff Wilson Jr., to have some big plays. McGlinchey, a solid game, kind of unspectacular. He did have that bad illegal man downfield, which did ultimately cost us some points, but overall offensive line, really happy with the performance there. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And the defensive line, honestly, it was a little bit of a mixed bag. Omenahu had a sack and Drake Jackson had a sack. So you really have to like that, especially from the rookie. But Omenahu played a good game too. I really, really liked the performance in terms of the run defense. Akeem Spence, Hassan Ridgeway really played well, as did Kevin Givens. So we know Carolina, they love to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey. He is their best player. Carolina, only 3.8 yards per carry. McCaffrey didn't get close to 100 yards. So ultimately, you do have to like the performance from the run defense. However, the pass defense in terms of pass rush, not really there. Now, the 49ers did end with 6 sacks, so you have to like that, but only 2 of them came from the defensive line, which means we had to blitz, and we had to blitz a lot in order to get pressure. Pressure was really inconsistent on Baker Mayfield. Now, of course, you can attribute some of that to Nick Bosa not being there, but this defense and the defensive line, of course, the depth is being tested big time, but we expect these guys to be able to get after the quarterback, and if we want to have success moving forward, they definitely do. But you also have to give credit to Carolina's offensive line. Now, when we move on to the linebackers, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, great performances today. Greenlaw all over the field, led the team in tackles. Fred Warner had a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, also just really involved in the game plan too. Solid in coverage and also against the run. He really helped limit Christian McCaffrey. So really great performance by the linebackers. Now moving on to the cornerbacks, and it was just a great game. Charvarius Mooney Ward, man, this guy might have been the best signing for, you can maybe argue, any team in the offseason. He did give up 1 big catch to Robbie Anderson. Honestly, the coverage on the play was really good. Just a perfect pinpoint throw from Baker Mayfield to Robbie Anderson on the sideline. Beyond that, gave up nothing. He had a whole bunch of passes defense. 4 of them led the team there. So Charvarius Ward really paying dividends. Almost had an interception too, but he is quickly becoming a shutdown guy. Now let's move on to Emmanuel Moseley. And look, he had the great interception and the great run back. Let's give a lot of credit for the run back to take it in for a touchdown. But of course, injuries, possible torn ACL. I really hope that's not the case. I hope it's something a little bit minor. Maybe we actually get lucky with injuries this time, similar to with the Jets when they thought Zach Wilson tore his ACL. Fingers crossed it's not that. Hopefully he can come back later in the year. But honestly, at this point, it doesn't look good. But Mosley was playing great. He was playing a great game, and it's just such a shame. But not to dwell on that, let's also talk about Diamador Lenore. I thought he was okay at best. Had a really nice big hit, so you like that. But also got beat really badly by a Carolina receiver, and I think it was Shai Smith. So, up and down game for Lenore, and we're going to count on him more moving forward, especially since we know that Mosley is going to miss possibly the entire season. However, to end it off here in the defense with a really, really positive note was the play of the safeties. Jimmy Ward gets hurt. However, Deshaun Gibson, he's been really good for us. He's done more than just fill in for Jimmy Ward. He had half a sack today. Really good performance there. Talanoa Hufanga, playing at an all-pro level, let's be honest, had a sack, had a tackle for loss, did a whole bunch of things flying around, really good in support in terms of run defense as well. So we have to be happy with the performances from the safeties. Overall, when we look at this defense, the defense, number one, we scored a touchdown, a pick six with Mosley. Number two, you have to really attribute 14 points of the offense to the defense, because towards the end of the game, when we basically shut down the Panthers offense, the Niners took over the ball within the Panthers 10-yard line. So the defense, you really have to give about 14 points worth of credit, only give up 15 points. Overall, really happy with the performance by the defense. We're going to be tested big time in Atlanta because, Drake London looking like a very good young rookie receiver. Kyle Pitts could be back, and so Cordarrelle Patterson will not be there for the Falcons this coming Sunday. But if Kyle Pitts is there, then we're really going to have our hands full against the Falcons, and we're going to be short-handed. But overall, this is, you could easily argue, the best defense in the NFL. It's either us or Buffalo. And, Buffalo, they've had some injuries, so have we, but it's a really close call. But happy with the performance from the defense, really happy with the performance from the offense. Besides the Kittle fumble, really a clean game, no major turnovers, so you have to be happy with that. Garoppolo seemingly get into a rhythm. I do really hope as well, moving forward, that we do keep taking those deep shots. If Garoppolo sees one-on-one matchups, that we have to test the DBs. And then also, one of the things I'd like to see a little bit more of as well is continue to use Debo as a decoy. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Use Debo as a decoy because the defense pays so much attention to him. Let's end the video here talking about these special teams, and good God, they were awful today. The special teams was dreadful. Brian Schneider, he's got to do something to get the special teams fixed. Let's talk about the kick return coverage. Really, really bad, dreadful. Back-to-back kickoffs, the Panthers took it to the 50-yard line and really gave them momentum, especially coming out of halftime. And the second time we had that long kickoff return that we gave up, who had to make the tackle? Robbie Gould, and now he's hurt. So just a really disaster performance. But not only that, we had another field goal blocked, which is just really discouraging. And luckily when you're playing in the regular season against these kind of teams, that's Carolina, who are not that great, it's really, those kind of mistakes don't hurt you as much. But when it comes to playoff time, we have to get this figured out. Even if that means if we have to make a change or bring in another coach for special teams or do something. But it's not good enough, and it's not going to be good enough come playoff football. But overall, besides for the special teams, I'm really, really happy with their performance. A little bit bittersweet, of course, with the injuries, but the Niners moved to 3-2 on the season, number one in the NFC West, as all the other West teams lost. We have a winnable game coming up against Atlanta, then two big back-to-back games against the Chiefs and the Rams. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments. Again, thank you so much for attending the stream. All the interaction, all the engagement was great, and the support, I really appreciate it. I'm going to have a video coming out with a preview of the Atlanta Falcons game later this week, possibly streaming some other games this week as well, so stay tuned for that. Big things coming as Shifty 49ers talk. But I'm going to say two things right now. The butt counts. I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.